I'm Kent Lindstrom, co-founder of 8-Bit Capital, a Silicon Valley venture capital firm that invests in the software startups of the future. We focus on AI, cybersecurity, and fintech. I'm going to take you behind the scenes in Silicon Valley. This is the Something Ventured podcast. All right, welcome back. This is the Something Ventured podcast. I am Kent Lindstrom. I am your host. My guest, Sheel Mohnot. Thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Happy to be on.
I had trouble with your name. I watched like 10 video things of people interviewing you, and don't think I'm that prepared. Don't get excited. But to figure out how to say your name,
Yeah.
9 out of 10 of them just said Sheel. They didn't say your last name.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool to be well known enough in the venture world that you're like a one name guy.
Well, okay. Funny enough, I'm not the only Sheel in venture. There's a guy named Sheel Tile who used to be at NEA, then now he's at Amplo. And crazy enough, like he's the only other Sheel that I know.
Yeah.
And he works in venture.
Yeah.
And then he recently bought the Portland Blazers.
Okay. Good for him.
And so we've gone through, he was way more popular on the internet in terms of like Google ranking for a while than I was. And then I bet he is going to be again now that he's runs a sports team.
Yeah, there's two Kents in Silicon Valley. I'm a Kent, and I've been called the other Kent, by the way. I don't know if I should be offended by that. But as far as I know, there's two of us as well. So Sheel has, I will ask you, this is funny. Sheel has built and sold a couple companies, started a venture firm with a partner, Better Tomorrow Ventures, which I'm not sure if that means that tomorrow's going to be better. Does that mean tomorrow's going to be better? You're going to be better? Or does it not mean anything?
Oh, you're the first person to pick up on this. It means both.
Oh, well, it's just because I was confused and I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, no. So Better Tomorrow, like we invest for a better future, and then we want to improve ourselves. So actually, our management company is called Be Better Tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Because the initials BTV just sound like a boy band.
Yeah.
To me. So I'll ask you how you came to venture, but it's funny. When I started doing this, I listened to a bunch of venture podcasts, and the different VCs would talk about how they became a venture capitalist. And it's a pretty elite, desirable job. And they all said, well, I fell into it, right? Like a stunning number of people said they fell into it. And so I would ask them on my podcast, like, how did you fall into it? And the answer would invariably be, well, I went to Stanford, and then I worked at Google, and my college roommate's dad founded Benchmark, and I fell into it. Right? I never fell into the housing projects. And so I'll tell this to a venture capitalist, and without irony, they'll go, well, that's not my path at all. I went to Harvard. I worked at Facebook, and my college roommate's dad founded Kleiner Perkins. So when I ask you how you came to venture,
I just fell into it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. You started your path you started here and you went to India. Like that's not the normal. That's not. That's not obvious.
Totally.
Right? As a path.
Yeah. So okay. So I Indian heritage, grew up in the United States in Pittsburgh primarily. Went to Carnegie Mellon.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. The Carnegie. How does that relate to the guys on NPR who give them money who are called Carnegie?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Carnegie and Carnegie.
Yeah.
You can say it both ways. It's the same background, same heritage. And actually it's kind of funny because it's even in Pittsburgh we call it Carnegie Mellon, but there's a town called Carnegie.
Okay. Yeah. It's like it stopped being the Ukraine at some point, just became Ukraine.
Yeah.
Here we are. Okay, so anyway, sorry.
Okay, so go to Carnegie Mellon, make software for hospitals, was a consultant. Then I decide to move to India. And I was actually inspired by watching a movie. And I decide I'm going to go to India and try to fix India. But really,
wow.
it was fixing myself. I did nothing for India, basically.
Yeah.
But I worked in microfinance, and it was actually for a nonprofit based in San Francisco called Kiva.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And I was helping individuals from the West give loans to individuals in India and other places. via their credit card. So you could like make a micro loan and help somebody buy an irrigation pump for their farm, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. What's that? There's a book, that India book. They always try to make it a movie. It's been going on for like 15 years. Like
Shantaram?
Shantaram. Yeah. That was such a good
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, really good book. I think they made it into a TV show,
Yeah.
actually.
That's
But
disappointing.
there were all these rumors it was going to be like Johnny Depp and
Yeah, yeah. That's a crazy
yeah,
book if you haven't read it. So you
yeah.
start, it's a fintech VC, and I normally think like focus. By the way, I had Frank Rotman on recently, who had a fintech
Oh,
VC.
great.
So is he like your nemesis? Is he like your Newman, or is he like, no,
No,
we're a
he's my
big partner?
buddy.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. Frank's great.
Yeah. Oh, he was.
And
It was
actually, like when I got started in venture 2016, he was the first person, like I remember just calling him and he was just willing to chat for a
yeah,
long time.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people really welcomed me in and I didn't really know anything and maybe still don't, but I feel like a lot of people, including Frank, really were just like, "Hey, we'll show you the ropes, ask
yeah,
us anything." And they really took time. It was great.
yeah. And those of you listening will remember Frank also co-founded Capital One. I normally think like the focus VCs. I generally think like that they're sort of like gimmicky and don't make any sense. Like, yeah, I focus on Stanford students. It's like, well, I can invest in Stanford students too. Or,
Yeah,
oh, I focus in Atlanta ecosystem. Like, well, they've got the internet in Atlanta. I can invest there. But fintech and healthcare too. But fintech seems big enough and both specific enough and big enough that it does make sense for a focused fund.
yeah. I think that's right. I would say it's not like one niche category. Like there's so many niche funds out there. There's
Yeah.
like there very interesting funds like Convective Capital is strictly focused on wildfire prevention.
Mm.
And they have like I think it's
Yeah.
like an $85 million fund focused on
Yeah.
wildfire.
Yeah.
Um,
That's pretty specific.
and when we started in 2019, some of the LPs did tell us, "Hey, we think it's too small of a niche."
Hmm.
And actually, fintech is quite large. If you look
Yeah.
at um, overall venture funding, it's gone down since 20 the percentage for fintech has gone down since 2021. In 2021, I think it was like a quarter, and now it's still, I think, around 15% of all venture financing are fintech.
Yeah.
So if you have a surface area that's around 15% of all venture financings, that's pretty large.
Yeah.
And there's so many different things that are included in fintech that I think it's not really one category.
Yeah. And it ended up, we invest only in software. We invest in the not an ad for a fund, but huge markets, amazing entrepreneurs, perfect guy for the thing. You tell us the future. And we ended up in a lot of fintech
Yeah,
because it's just like, well, geez, that does sound like a big problem, and that does sound pretty exciting, and you do sound like the right guy to do it, and there you end up, basically.
totally.
That's cool. And your office is in the Mission District in San Francisco, which, for those of you around, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
For those of you listening around the world, the Mission, I live there too. It's I think Lee Edwards, I think Root Ventures is there too. But
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
it's the cool part of San Francisco. Pretty Hispanic, pretty cool. Led by a supervisor who's a crazy person, by the way. If I think I'm getting that right. But most VCs wouldn't be caught dead there. Your Jackson Square crew,
Yeah, that's true.
it's pretty cool. How'd you end up with that kind of?
Okay, so the real story is I live so in 2015, so a while ago, I bought a small building,
Yeah.
ended up being my home and my office. So
Wow.
I live on the top floor where I am right now,
Yeah.
and our office is on the ground floor. So I live here. I love it.
Wow.
And it's really convenient for everyone. So we're kind of like right off the highway. So Jake lives in Menlo and he can come in.
Yeah.
And it's been very, I mean, it's obviously very convenient for
Wow.
me.
You're like a 1920s seamstress living above the shop, going down to
Okay,
morning.
one
Do you,
one
do,
funny note on that or interesting note is so Where I'm from in India, it's Rajasthan, and the people are called Marwaris. And there are a lot of stereotypes about us. And my wife was recently looking it up, like on ChatGPT, like what are the stereotypes about where you're from? And one of them is they live on top of their shop. I was
All right.
like, and everything, it's so funny. Like everything, like basically described me to a T. And I was like, man, am I just not a
Yeah.
real individual? I'm just doing what my
Right.
ancestors have always done.
Right. Do you have a little broom and you go out and sweep the sidewalk every morning? You really should. It would just be cool. So
Totally.
so how has it gone? You've been a venture capitalist for like not zero amount of time, right? Has it been like 8 years, 10 years?
So we started BTB in 2019, but
Oh,
prior to that, I was started in venture in 2016, so 10 years actually.
yeah. How's it gone? Like how like have you had the well, first of all, have you had the big hits?
Yeah. Um, I'd say it's gone very well. I think, I've definitely had some hits. I think it's all kind of crazy now in the context of what hits means. Like,
Right.
is a billion-dollar company a hit, or does it have to be a trillion-dollar
Yeah.
company now?
Yeah. What yeah, let me ask you about that. What is going on? Like they're not only are there like $1 trillion companies, which I kind of makes sense when you just look at their cash flow. Like it's just
Yeah.
okay, there's 6 billion people on the planet or on the internet now, and there used to be like 300 million, in the early 2000s. But what do you make of if you're just to read the press without much skepticism, there's companies they start and they're like at $100 million in ARR in like 2 months. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if you literally went to a company tomorrow and they just said, we're going to do as fast as we can, we're not even going to look at your product, and your dad runs the company, right? And we're just going to sign up. Like it would take like 3 months. Like just
Yeah.
so is it really companies really hitting $100 million ARR in 2 months, or am I
Okay,
missing
so
something?
so there's so many things to talk about here. But one of them is none of these numbers are real. Like they're not. First of all, what is ARR? Annual
Yeah,
recurring revenue.
yeah,
And it's really you can't really have 100 million of ARR in a couple months. Um, there are companies that are growing tremendously fast, and faster than I've ever seen before in my 10 years, and probably that you've ever seen. Um, but a lot of them, first of all, are not ARR. Sometimes what they're calling ARR is really funny. Like companies will announce their ARR number, and then I'll talk to like late stage investors or whatever that looked at the deal, and they say, "Oh, none of that was ARR. They were counting trial revenue.
yeah,
They were counting all sorts of stuff
yeah,
that is not annual recurring revenue."
yeah.
And then also companies that grow super fast also could fall super fast.
Mhm.
So, it wasn't that long ago that one of the fastest growing companies in the early GPT era was like Jasper.
Right.
They had grown to 100 million of revenue, if I remember correctly. And yeah, they grew super fast, but then also then GPT chat GPT came out, and people realized, hey, I can just do this with a $20 a month subscription that gets me all sorts of other stuff too.
Yeah,
And I'm assuming the revenue from Jasper fell pretty fast.
yeah,
And so I think in general companies that grow super fast also can fall super fast.
yeah,
And I think the disruption by the model companies is a real concern.
yeah. Is it different this time in the sense that if you look at the history of companies, like what really happened, a lot of companies were around for a bit of time before they took off. I mean, if you look at Google, like there was some point where they tried to sell the whole thing for like $1 million, and
Yeah,
Chime, nobody gave a crap about the Series
totally.
A, and Homebrew kind of did it, and they took off. Like a lot of companies have that story. Is that not going to be a story anymore, or I don't know? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question because like people are looking for hypergrowth,
Yeah,
right? Because it's happening, you're kind of like, well, why would I invest in a company that isn't experiencing hypergrowth if I
yeah,
can invest in a company that's experiencing hypergrowth? And so we have a company in our portfolio that went from 25 million, about 25 million of revenue a year ago to 50 million this year.
yeah,
And that's pretty good.
yeah,
Um, and in the past, and really great founder, great fundamentals. And they went out to raise, and a lot of the investors said, um, you know what? Like we're looking for companies that are growing much faster.
yeah.
We're kind of looking for that 10x growth.
Right.
And a company that by all metrics, if you looked at if a few years ago, if you said your company grew from 25 million to 50 million, you'd say, that's awesome. And actually, I think it was a little more than that. I think it was over 2x growth. Um, and and nowadays, a lot of funds are saying, hey, that's not interesting.
Hmm.
And I think there's opportunity there. I think we don't invest at a later stage, but I think probably these companies are very well priced and still will have tremendous growth. And this company's at no risk of disruption by any of the model companies. It's a
Yeah.
fintech dealing with money and has licenses and stuff like that.
It seems like that might lead to general attitude might lead to some sloppy company building and or fraud. I don't know.
Yeah, I think both are correct. Um, you do definitely have companies out there that are hyping crazy numbers,
Yeah.
and when you look under the hood, it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have companies that are maybe not in that crazy 10x growth mode, but when you look at them and think like a rational human being, you're like, okay, they're doing a really important thing at a really important segment of the economy. Nobody's no model's going to disrupt them. Clearly it's going to be an X zillion dollar company, but not in 1 year. It's going to take 5 years because they're selling to medical practices, and guess what? You're going to have to go put on a coat and tie and meet with them a couple times,
Totally.
like that kind of thing. It's just the normal economy. Um, have you had any? It's so funny in venture. Have you had any like misses? Where you're having lunch with Travis Kalanick, and he said you want to invest in Uber Taxi, or you're like, nah, any of those. It's so funny what a place those occupy in people's minds too.
Yeah.
They're just a weird.
Yeah, I would say, look, we've had a ton of misses over the years, right? I would say companies, so there are a lot of companies that, you know, I wish I was in, but I can't call them miss yet because they haven't, achieved
Yeah,
greatness. There are a few companies from back in the day that have achieved greatness that I can look back and say, I didn't invest for a particular reason and I should
yeah,
have. Um, so I can say back in the day as an angel, so pre me being in venture, and I wasn't really, a serious angel or anything like that, but I had the opportunity to look at Robinhood,
yeah,
had the opportunity to look at Chime, and I can give you reasons why I didn't do either of them, and
yeah,
why I was obviously wrong.
yeah,
Um, so start with Robinhood. Um, the founders had gone to Stanford with actually at the time one of my roommates, and they actually I think came over to our place. Um, I was thinking at the time, and they had difficulty raising their first round, first
mm,
couple rounds, I believe. Um, and I looked at the company and I thought, okay, you guys are offering free trading. That's cool. But you know what? A lot of folks have offered discounted trading before.
yeah,
There were companies like Zecco Free Trade out there that were doing, if not free trading, like $1 trades, $2 trades. And they sold for like some money, nothing crazy.
yeah,
And I was just thinking, like, what is different about you guys? And what's different about now? And I think what I completely missed was it wasn't just the free trades. And by the way, at that point, they didn't really know how they were going to make a lot of money.
Right.
So that's another thing,
Yeah.
that had to be figured out.
Yeah.
Um, but what I missed was they weren't competing with interactive brokers. So like interactive brokers or any, like Schwab, TD, these are places where people like professionals or semi-professionals or individuals like us might trade. Um, and I thought, okay, if you're competing with those guys, like those guys will bring their prices down. And for me, I think at the time I was paying $6 or $8 a trade. And I was thinking like, it doesn't really matter. Like six or eight
Yeah.
dollars on a trade makes almost no difference to me anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so are people who actually trade gonna care? And I had the examples of those companies previously that tried and didn't get anywhere. And I think, what I totally missed was Robinhood was bringing a whole new generation of people into trading. And if you look at the average account today of a Schwab or a Fidelity, it's probably like a few $100,000 on average.
Yeah.
And if you look at a Robinhood, it's probably like $10,000. And they really were able to bring in that. I don't even know what the generation was. Millennial, Gen Z,
I can't keep this straight. Why?
I
I don't
can't
get what's
keep it
going on.
straight. Now it's like alpha.
Yeah.
But, I think they were able to bring on this whole new crowd into investing and then were able to monetize that really well and then actually expanded and now I'm a customer.
Yeah.
And I think people realized that these products they had built for a different class of investor actually were quite good for folks like myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of um, you know, larger net worth, semi-professional folks started using Robinhood too. But I totally missed that mobile was a whole new beast and they were reaching a totally different class of investor.
Yeah.
And typically it's hard to make money off somebody who doesn't have that much money,
Yeah.
but they found a way.
Yeah. That it's such an interesting thing in venture too, which is the sort of that so many hits were not. I mean, if you look at Uber, like, yeah, Lyft was there first, but it was kind of pretty much the first one. But so many things, like Google was search engine number 400 and
Totally.
Facebook was social network number 4,000. I mean,
Totally.
this concept where you kind of talk to a founder and they're like, no one else is doing this. You're like, oh, this is not a very good idea. And then like, oh,
Yeah.
100 people are doing this. Oh, it's too crowded. But the too crowded doesn't mean that it's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's yeah, like you said, you know, it's some people say like, oh, okay, actually Facebook wasn't competing, but really they were
Yeah.
with, you know, all the companies you and I remember.
Yeah.
Um, and you probably remember better than me,
Yeah.
obviously, Friendster.
Well, and they came, it's funny, they got lucky, but they came in late and you can also look at everyone else and go, okay, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll just take that one. And, you kind of start on third base, with a lot of
Totally.
things.
Totally.
Whereas when the social networks before that started, you could sit in a, meeting with a venture capitalist and they'd be like, well, this is ridiculous. No one's ever going to put a digital image of themselves online. That would be
Yeah.
crazy. That would be nuts. It is funny that do you think you would get, you know, my partner rented space to Travis Kalanick, knew him, got the memo about Uber, did not invest, and probably would not if he had it to do over, because at the time Travis Kalanick wasn't even going to run the company, right?
Yeah.
And so if somebody came to us today with an amazing idea, they said, yeah, just FYI, I'd like to raise some money from you guys, but I'm not going to be running this. I'm going to put up an ad on, Twitter and see if I can find somebody. We still wouldn't invest. Do you think you would get Robinhood right now if you got another shot?
It's a great question. Hard to answer. And that point about Travis is a really good one that's going to stick with me. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I could, and another one I got wrong, by the way, we talked about it, you talked about it earlier, was Chime.
Yeah.
And that one, they're building a neobank and there'd been a lot of neobanks. People had tried.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's the same thing basically as Robinhood,
Yeah.
which is like Simple had tried. I knew the guys from Simple quite well. It sold for 120 million. It was, not a terrible outcome, but wasn't a great venture outcome. And and they were trying to reach folks like me, and really Chime reaches a totally different population.
Yeah.
So I think in both Robinhood and Chime, I missed who the customer really was.
Yeah.
And and that was early. And I don't think I would make those mistakes today,
Yeah.
but there are definitely other mistakes I would make. And actually, I can think of two of my great companies from 2016 era that I probably would not have invested in today.
Right. And what are the great ones?
Well, a couple of them. So at this point, I was running a fund called 500 Fintech.
Yeah.
I ran an accelerator program, and I had the luxury of investing in companies at a $2.5 million valuation.
Nice.
And we had in that first cohort, I think we had like 7 companies and a couple unicorns. And in the next cohort, it was a sort of similar thing. We had two big successes. And each of them, if I look at today, I can tell you what they are. So the first one, a company called Albert,
Hmm.
albert.com. And it's under the radar, but recently less so because they just took the jersey patch on the LA Lakers. So if you look right here on the LA Lakers, it says Albert, and that's my portfolio company.
Oh,
And they reportedly paid $30 million a year for that. Um, and the company's doing extremely well, is very profitable, probably will go public in the near future. Um, and it started out as a personal finance manager. And that's like, back in the day, there
yeah.
was Mint and
Mint. Yeah.
so many others along the way. There's no way I would invest in a personal finance manager today. But at the time, I was naive and I really liked the founder. And I was just like, there's something about this, like, I think it's gonna work. And then ultimately it worked because the founder was excellent founders, and they pivoted their way around to making it work. But along the way it took them a very long time. They raised it 2.5, then 6, then 15, then 20, and like these are all different rounds.
Right. 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 Right.
And then now it's many hundreds of millions in revenue and profit.
Yeah. That's
So is
cool.
it?
It's funny. The misses are so much more fun to talk about
Yeah,
for some reason. The favorite, the Ron Wayne story, the Apple guy,
yeah.
the guy who owned like 10% of
Uh,
Apple or something.
and he sold for $800 or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's a great story. Although it is like when you think about these things, like to be fair, which should be worth like $100 billion today or something like that
If he didn't sell.
if it didn't sell. But to be fair, like you would have to. The thing that one, I think there was actually some reasonable reason for it. Like they had debt and he owned a house, and like he was like, if
Yeah.
something went wrong, they'd actually come after me. But also, you'd have to hold that Apple stock when it went to $30 million, and then went back down to 8 million, and then went up to 60 million, and went back. Like, would any of us, like, none of us invested in Apple on day one and held it for 20 years. So,
It's true.
you know, we feel like we're a little bit smarter than him, but maybe not.
Totally. It's like I worked at Amazon briefly. I interned at Amazon back in the day, and then I chose not to go back afterwards. But um, yeah, if I had whatever they had offered me in equity at the time, it was like a few $100,000 of equity, vesting over a few years. That would be worth a lot of money today.
Yeah.
But I probably would have just sold it. So
Well, and that's the crypto thing. Like, you got to kind of be, oh, this guy's worth like, $200 million in crypto. And that means that guy who spent $10 on whatever
yeah,
sat there when it went to 800,000 and down to $50 and then back up to, you got to be like, yeah. And that's why you see, I lost my password and that's why it's worth 200 million. Because
Exactly. I was just
I
going to say that. Yeah,
found my
exactly.
password 5 years. So AI comes in. It seems like it's one of the real things. What do you think? Like, we're getting maybe not past the bubble, but you can kind of start to see the outlines of what's happening. What do you think in terms of like what it's not really taking off as fast as you might think, or where it's having a surprising impact? I'll give you an example. Like when I talk to people, other venture managers, and I ask them what they're doing with AI for their business. I'm very excited to hear what they're doing, so I copy the best practices. And
Yeah.
it's always kind of like nothing's really blown. It's sort of like, oh, we have it write our memos, or we have it. It looks at LinkedIn and figures out who's starting a new company and how does that work. It's like, well, it just sees who's changed their job title. I'm like, you don't really need AI for that. I don't think. Like what is your sense of what's kind of it's far more interesting in this area. It's far less interesting in this other area.
It's interesting. I think we're all doing the same. We're all building the same stuff in with adventure.
Right.
Like all the stuff you described, and then it's kind of like piecing stuff together for us,
Yeah.
and just doing some automation such that like my notes are automatically
Yeah.
put here and there. And yeah, like
Meh.
it feels meh, but it is kind of a big deal in
Yeah,
that
that's true.
it saves so much time. I was talking to a partner at a large venture fund a couple of days ago, and she was telling me they actually are going to get rid of some EAs because they don't, there's less work to do because now so much of it is automated.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be more of that. But okay, to your point, meh on the
Yeah.
margins.
Yeah.
It feels like magic sometimes to me still.
Yeah.
I still have that feeling of wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it, different phases of AI, like you have it and you don't. Like I think, living in San Francisco, I think I took my first Waymo like 3.5 years ago.
Okay, that's magic.
Yeah, that it felt like magic then, but now you're just like kind of used to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, like the first one was really magic.
Yeah.
And then now, like, I have a Tesla that mostly drives itself.
Yep.
Um, and it's just normal now. But I still get that magical feeling from stuff from time to time.
Yeah.
Like I started using this company Town, and it just like pulls together a bunch of stuff and like automatically drafts my emails for me.
Yeah.
And there's stuff like that is just like pretty good. When it gets
Yeah.
it right, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah. I found a lot of magic in certainly Waymo is funny. The first time you see it, you're like, that's crazy. There's nobody driving it. And then like the fifth time you see it, you're like, that
It's just normal.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, why is there a dude driving that other car? That seems weird.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But we traveled recently in Europe, like in Germany, and the small things that AI can do are kind of interesting. Like we were on a train in Germany. We're like, couldn't figure out how to open the bathroom door. Just couldn't figure it out.
Totally.
Took a picture of it, and the AI is like, oh yeah, that's a blah blah blah. There's a little tab way up at the top, and you got to pull and it's just like, oh,
Totally.
that's pretty impressive, and it's a small thing, but
Totally. There's a million things like that.
yeah,
Um, there's a billboard when you're driving north into Marin that says AI will not fix your AC. And
yeah,
it's like a sign for some like HVAC company.
yeah,
And they're wrong because I had an issue with with actually my parents' thermostat. And I just like over the course of an hour, like I took a bunch of pictures around the house of the thermostat and it was like, hey, things are good. That shouldn't be the issue. Here's the wiring that you did. It looks fine. And then I went down to the HVAC system and it had me open up a bunch of panels and I did fix the HVAC system
yeah,
with AI.
yeah,
And that's the kind of thing you're talking about. It's like a
yeah,
little small thing that's pretty magical.
yeah,
And that probably would have cost, a few $100
yeah,
and time and you can just do it yourself. and
Yeah.
have the satisfaction.
Taking the pictures, not to get off track, but taking the pictures is great because like the classic thing that happens is you'll be reading instructions or you're learning software. It's like, click on the reset button and you're like, there
Where
is
the hell's
no
the reset
reset
button?
button. So you take a picture and you go, you tell me where the reset button is. And I do it with that little snarky attitude too.
Totally.
And it's like, oh, you're correct. There's no reset button. It's the something, it's the little curly thing in the corner. It's pretty neat. What do you make of the change in venture that I've found fascinating is the entrance into the political arena of
Oh
the
yeah.
big famous rich guys. Like I just don't remember. It just used to be kind of you're here in San Francisco and everybody's left of Trotsky and that's what it is. And then in the
Yeah.
last 3 years,
Yeah.
almost with a certain amount of glee in the case of Mark Andreessen, these guys have
Yeah.
engaged. What and also by the way, through guys like Gary Tan at the local level in San Francisco.
Yeah.
What do you make of all that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think people for the longest time felt like we're doing our own thing here in California and like in spite of the government, like we're doing it. And then I think really Peter Thiel, I think was, one of the early folks to get political. He spoke at the 2016 Republican National Convention, and supported Trump.
Yeah,
And I thought like that was crazy.
yeah,
Um, and he was right, or he was right to support Trump in that
yeah.
Trump ended up
He
winning
won. Yeah,
and whatever, JD Vance ended up there because of Peter.
right.
And it's all really interesting. I think in California, I think we saw how messed up things got. And it was for Gary, I think, at risk of threatening sort of like what makes San Francisco, California special was being ruined by local politics. And so he
Yeah,
got involved and I think did a great job. At the national level, I think I have a lot of skepticism. I would say like I'm very centrist. Like I not definitely not straight Democrat, definitely not straight Republican.
mm-hmm.
I think there could be good things on both sides. I think Trump is insanely corrupt, and I think that's bad for capitalism.
Right.
And I think it just everything we're doing reminds me of growing up in America, but with an eye towards India, just making fun of everything that was happening in India in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
And the corruption, just like everything really reminds me of India.
Yeah.
And I remember like being a kid going over there, making fun of my cousins for how stupid their politics were.
Yeah.
And we've got the same thing going on now. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
But I think about it in a maybe cynical way, which is there's this like little game that I play with my friends called Sheriff of Nottingham. It's like a board game.
Okay.
And you have to like you're like a customs importer and you like let stuff get in or not. And the winning strategy in that game is if you find a corrupt importer, you work with them a lot and you just bribe the shit out of them. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how you win. And there's some analog there.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's my sense is that what kind of happened is people were just ignoring it. Just take the local San Francisco thing, for example. The tech guys were just doing their thing, but they were turning over like $17 billion a year to the city.
Yeah.
And so a whole bunch of people went and got involved and decided to do with that money. And so when you're working away at doing whatever you're doing, there were people who were showing up at the meeting Tuesday afternoon at 2:00 and assigning themselves a bunch of money, which was also fine until it just got to the point where people were like, I'm stepping over a junkie to get to my job
Absolutely,
at Uber. And what the hell is going like this? It's gone way too far. And Gary Tan stepped in. I think at the national level too, you had like, the last administration was, they weren't letting mergers happen. They weren't letting IPOs happen. They were cracking down on crypto. And I think people finally went, oh my God, you're going to kill us. Like you're going to
Totally.
like put us out of business. And I do not like Donald Trump, but oh my
Totally.
God, like what are we gonna do? It's
Yeah,
just
totally.
nuts.
I agree with that. I think like I think the previous administration in particular just made it so difficult to operate, and then you kind of have to embrace, or maybe don't have to, but then a lot of people were like, let me embrace what's on the other side. I think the part I struggle with is how much they've embraced it, and some people think like he's done nothing wrong.
Yeah,
Um, and that's the part I, you know, find fault with. But
yeah,
I totally get why it happened.
yeah,
Like, yeah, the Dems were, you know, very difficult to work with from a
yeah.
technology perspective.
Well, in
Yeah.
between those two things, you have California. I've done a few billionaire tax just
Yeah.
podcast just on my own. And having read, so California has what's called a billionaire tax, and California is just famous for naming we vote on propositions because we don't have a representative government apparently, and like the proposition will be called like the Clean Water Act for children, and it's like a tax break for coal miners. I mean, it's just it's nuts how these things work. But the billionaires tax, I read it. It's like lets the legislature make it any amount for any period of time for any income level, like basically, which is kind of nuts.
That one is interesting because it actually is not a failure of our elected officials. Um, in fact, the way this whole thing started was one of the DSA guys, um, I think it was 2 years ago, like one of the DSA representatives, of which there are only a few actually in California, um, brought up brought up this billionaire tax, and it was so unpopular even in California's um, House that they didn't even bring it to a vote. So
Mhm.
it didn't get to a vote, and then he took it to the SEIU, and they were like, because of our crazy system that you can bring anything on the ballot with signatures, you just need a little bit of money.
Yeah,
Um, they are the ones who are bringing it. But actually, very few politicians in California are supporting it.
yeah,
So even though I guess that is one, like I think the politicians realize
yeah.
it's a bad thing for
It's
California.
called a billionaire's tax, though. It's the kind of thing people might vote for. And
I know.
this is complicated. There's two other things on the ballot that actually counter
Yeah, exactly.
that
And you have to
countermand it.
confuse the electorate, which is so stupid.
It's crazy. And I mean, there's so many of these things that you got to realize there's like a second order effect because what it really the thing that can be kind of chilling, like just take the simple example that people are talking about. Well, we should charge people per mile they drive because you don't get gas tax from electric cars, right? So let's say California is going to have a mileage tax.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you do that? Well, you put a tracker in everybody's car to figure out how many miles they're driving. Now the government's got a tracker in everybody's car. Like, did you want that? And so the billionaire's tax, remember, you don't really know who's a billionaire. Yeah,
Totally.
I heard that Larry's a billionaire or whatever, but is that real estate guy in Orange County a billionaire?
Totally.
Well, what do? Every single person in California lists all of their tangible and intangible assets and reports that to the government. It gets into that kind of stuff. But how serious? I'll kind of wrap up on this a little bit. Because you look at guys like David Freeberg, he's like got pretty far into the doomerism. I don't know if you listen to any of his stuff, but
I don't.
he's pretty concerned about the rise of socialism in America, like
Oh, okay, okay, that kind of Uber. Yeah.
within a few years.
Yeah.
I don't remember this in previous tech cycles, but the anti-tech thing, the
Hmm.
anti self-driving car, even though
It's crazy.
16 times safer, doesn't
It's
matter.
insane.
Doesn't matter. And by the way, do you know who the biggest lobby? You think it's the unions, the biggest
The
lobby against
trial
trial
attorneys,
lawyers,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Because if people don't get hurt and killed, they don't make money.
Totally.
Data centers, to a lesser extent, nuclear power.
Yep.
This didn't have when the mobile phone came out. People weren't a little bit like privacy, tracking my pocket, but people are really stopping data centers. Like
I know.
Boston's really not going to have Waymos, and probably New York. Like,
Yeah.
what do you make of the kind of anti tech AI doomerism? I don't know what to call it, but
Yeah. I think it's well, I think AI doomerism is something different.
okay, fair.
I think when I think of AI doomerism, and maybe I don't have this terminology right, but I think AI doomerism is AI is going to get so powerful that it's going to kill us all.
Oh, by the way, I've asked on this podcast, like Richard Sochi, all kinds of smart people
Yeah.
at the end as a joke, because I think I'm kind of funny. Um, are we going to have to blow up the data centers? And they never say no. They're always like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm like,
You
wow.
know,
Huh.
the first person that scared me about AI
Yeah.
was actually Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And it was in 2015. And actually, Elon and Peter Thiel both put money into this um, kind of like save humanity from AI nonprofit. And I was at a conference where Elon was talking about it. And at the time, he actually was on that side. Um, and I don't actually, I couldn't say where he lies today, but doesn't seem like he's on that side
Right.
now. Um, I'm kind of the opinion that things are going to be fine.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not worried about humanity because we are a resilient people and kind of have gone through many different shifts.
Yeah.
Um, on the anti-data center, anti-self-driving car, I think, look, in there are nuggets that make sense there. Um, self-driving cars, it's tough. I think like there's job displacement fears that are real. Um, Now, I tend to think that all job displacement fears don't really make that much sense. Like, as a
Yeah.
society, we need to get past it and technology helps.
Well,
Like,
and Mark Andreessen has always said, like, what's really happening when we create like a million jobs is we're wiping out, 10 million and adding 11. Right. Like,
totally.
like we ended some cab driver jobs and then added like 11 million Uber driver, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Like in the 40s, like I think like close to like a half to 1% of Americans were like telephone switchboard operators.
Yeah.
And like that job went away completely. Yeah, a generation before that, almost everyone was a farmer.
Right.
Um, and now very few are. So I think, we're resilient. Humans are resilient, so I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah.
But I see like that concern. I do understand.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't mean that we should like by no means does it mean we shouldn't do self-driving cars or anything like that. Like we should.
Right.
But it's also like it's obviously better for society to have these things. The data center thing also, there's some nuggets of it I understand. But on the whole, and the part I understand is data centers, like you kind of want them, if they're not giving you any benefit, like they don't create that many jobs,
Right.
and it is a strain on the grid. So if you don't like adequately account for those things, then I understand why you wouldn't want it in your backyard
Yeah.
because you can get all the benefits of AI without having it in your backyard.
Right. But you also wouldn't want a water sewage treatment plant in your backyard.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Look,
So I think it's like the AI companies and governments, like, and they're doing a good job of this in Virginia. I think people are like generally happy. They're getting the tax revenue and that's great. But I understand some nugget of the negative folks, but then they're going way too far and they're saying like it's using up all of our water and all this bullshit that isn't true.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but anyway, to your point, there's a lot of anti-tech sentiment out there, and it's very unfortunate. And I think some of it, like, we could have done better messaging around this. I
Right.
think the AI stuff, people are like, I think Dario might still be saying like, we're worried it's taking all the jobs, and that
Right.
doesn't help anything. I don't know if that's actually what's causing the problem. I think there's just a lot of folks that like anytime like tech has power now,
Yeah.
and anytime any group has power, there are going to be people fighting it.
Yeah. I mean, do you believe the hypothesis that OpenAI and Anthropic are basically fear mongering, like including the Hugging Face breach thing that happened recently, to get regulated such that they're inside the tent and everyone else is on the outside of the tent.
I think they're definitely, I don't know if those incidents specifically, but I think, obviously they're arguing to be regulated and they're arguing against open source AI,
Yeah.
which really like threatens their business model.
Yeah.
Um, and when you get to that scale, of course you've got
Yeah.
to fight however you can. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
Uber is fighting against self-driving cars
Yeah.
too.
Right.
So,
Right.
you kind of that's the nature of the game. Like
Yeah.
you're doing what's in the best interest of your shareholders, and
Right.
that's going to be fighting against anyone any way you can, including lobbying.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap up on this. What are you like looking forward to? You had your VC firm for a while, but in some sense, not that far along. What are you excited about? Technology? What are you looking forward to? Like, what's the good
Yeah,
news?
I mean, there's so many things. I think like we have AI to do a lot of stuff for us, but there's just like the future is so exciting. Like
Yeah.
you know, um, we have, full self-driving. It's not really full self-driving, but it's really great for what it is. But, I'm excited for being able to just get out of the car and have it park for me. That's a total
Yeah.
game changer. Um, and probably coming in the not too distant future. Obviously, like Waymo is a different beast, but
Yeah.
that kind of thing, it'll change how we think about traveling around the city.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of automation in every aspect of life is really exciting. And I think the incremental changes we've gotten in AI over the past few years are incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and it feels like each individual new model, it's not even really the models, it's partially the harness
Right.
around it. It's so incredible that I'm excited.
It's also possible we haven't seen the thing yet, right? Like mobile came out and everybody's doing check-ins on Foursquare and
Yeah,
that was fun. And then Uber came along and said, "No, here's what you do with a mobile phone. You
totally.
transform transportation." I wonder if it's not like that with AI where we're like, "Oh, it's a note-taking app. Great." And it's cool, but the thing just it's not in our imaginations yet. It's in someone's imagination, but not mine.
Totally. And then there's like the hardware stuff, right? Like um what can that change? And I sometimes wear the Meta glasses and it's like a V2 V3 thing right now, but you can imagine that being an interface for the future. You and I fortunately already wear glasses,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it'll be easy for us if
Yeah.
that is the interface of the future.
And then
Um
AI will probably invent a thing that renders glasses useless.
yeah, yeah,
Or
totally.
things like that. Well, how do people? Well, first of all, I'll tell you one way. You're an excellent poster with an A on X.
Thank
So
you.
follow Sheel on X. But how do people like if they want to follow your get in touch with you or follow what you're thinking? What are they? What's the best
Yeah, I
way?
feel like X is pretty good. I'm at Pitdesi, Pittdesi, and I think that's probably the best way. And then my email is easy to find if you want to get a hold of me.
All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely, thanks, Ken. It was fun.
All right. This has been the Something Ventured podcast. Sheel Mohnot, my guest. Talk to you next time.